On the podcast this week, we review two new films, Evil Dead Rise, on at cinemas at the moment, and Judy Blume Forever, a new documentary on Amazon. Andy Godfrey will also introduce his favourite trailer of all time. This is Flickering Dreams. So on Flickering Dreams today, I'm joined by Andy Godfrey, and we've migrated to a new video platform. So you see our godlike features in wonderful HD.
Talking about the Evil Dead Rising.
Yes. How appropriate, yes. So we've only got two films to review today, as I said, and we'll start off with the one that Andy's seen and I haven't actually seen, which is the latest in the Evil Dead franchise called Evil Dead Rise. Andy, would you like to introduce that?
Yes, certainly, Bob. So what they've done is they've taken they've changed the setting of the film. We've been used to seeing the cabin in the woods and teens in peril setting. We're now in the inner city in a condemned building where a family are packing up their goods to leave. Unfortunately, as they do that, there's an earthquake. And down in the basement of this condemned building is revealed a room full of crosses and crucifixes covering an altar, inside of which is, guess what? The Book of the Dead. And boy, do they regret finding it.
Mom?
Mommy's with the maggots now.
Mummies with the maggots now.
That's a lovely line, isn't it?
It's an incredible line. Got a great laugh at the screening I was at. So, Bob, this may be cinematic heresy, but for me, I thought this was the best of the Evil Dead series so far. I really enjoyed this. We've got so used to the cabin in the woods scenario with the teens in peril. That's actually where we start. But then the caption comes up on the screen after the title, One Day Ago. And we find out what happened one day ago. We find ourselves in inner city, Philadelphia. We find ourselves in the company of a young family, single mum. She's got 3 kids. The fourth one arrives home, having been away. They're packing up to leave because the building's been condemned. 2 of the kids are down in the basement when the earthquake strikes. It unveils a basement below their building. They go down inside. They find an altar covered with crosses and crucifixes. And inside they find the Book of the Dead. They also find 2 long-playing records. And on playing those records, I know, stick with me. On playing those records, you get a voice of a priest who found the Book of the Dead. He's reading from it out loud, and that unleashes the evil force that we've seen in previous films.
Oh, never make a recording of that. Don't you know anything?
It's a really good scenario, actually. It felt fresh, it felt original, it felt different. And you know, when we're out in the woods and we're being chased by goblins and ghosts and ghoulies, there's all directions that you can run in. This felt really claustrophobic because they're trapped on the second floor of a building that's just experienced an earthquake. They can't get away. There is nowhere to go. I mean, this is almost like a stage play. It's incredibly claustrophobic. It's very gory, as we come to expect. But I thought it felt fresh. I thought it felt original. It borrows very heavily, Bob, from several other films. I mean, I noticed nods to The Shining, nods to John Carpenter's The Thing, and also particularly Aliens. There is a real aliens thing going on here. We've got people crawling around in enclosed spaces. We've got a young girl whose mother is after her, and other people are protecting her. And there was a moment when I thought they were going to use the "get away from her, you bitch" line. They resisted the temptation because it was clearly there. Right. So they're definitely referencing aliens in this.
We know then if the little girl survives this one, she'll be bumped off in the first 2 minutes of the next one. So.
Well, exactly. I'm not saying whether she survives or not. It was a claustrophobic, tight, taut, 93-minute thriller, very gory, but for me, the most enjoyable of the series because it felt the most, apart from Army of the Dead, which was, set in ancient times, it felt really original, felt really different. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's quite unusual for a new horror film, isn't it? To say the words original and horror film at the same time.
Yeah, well, it's certainly original for this franchise. And I felt because, as I said, we're trapped in a very enclosed space on the second floor of a building where the lifts are out, the stairs have been destroyed. There's literally nowhere to run from the evil other than into your bedroom or the bathroom. It made it that much more tense. It made it that much more exciting, actually, because how are they going to get away? Who's going to live? Who's going to die? And as I said, there's a prologue at the beginning set at the cabin in the woods. And we kind of go full circle. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but it really is a good film. Alicia Sutherland as the mother is great. Bruce Campbell's in it. Lily Sullivan as Beth, one of the daughters of Alicia Sutherland's character. So, yeah, really good. Great score that gave nothing away. And I thought this was a really good thing. The only thing I wish was that I hadn't seen the trailer.
Yeah, I thought the trailer looked pretty spoilery.
The trailer is unbelievably spoilerific. And I don't know what it is with people who are putting together these trailers for horror films. It's like, let's show them all the scares so they won't be surprised when they see them in the film. You know, they won't get too frightened. It's ridiculous.
Well, I had that very rant about Mission Impossible trailer last week. So
yeah,
it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, I saw that again last night. I was thinking of you because
why put all the stunts and all the scary bits in the trailers? It's incredibly stupid.
Yeah, but it does seem to me the worst offenders are these days are trailers for horror films.
Yeah,
because I want to be scared. I want to jump. I don't want to know that when one particular character utters a particular line, something's going to happen. And if the trailers show me that line and what happens,
what's the point?
Exactly.
Yeah. Marked out of 10 for you.
Oh, I thought it was possibly the best horror film I've seen all year, and I've seen a few. I gave it 8.
Oh, good.
I thought it was really entertaining fun.
Good.
Very gory, but you know.
Yeah, I will be prepared. Okay, we're moving on to a film that's on Amazon, the second film we're reviewing today, and that is a film called Judy Blume Forever, and it's a documentary.
My daughter said, "Mother, couldn't you write a book about teenagers who fall in love and do it, and nobody has to die?" And I thought, yes.
Judy. Dear Judy. Today was the worst day.
I have a million problems.
Kids opened up to me in a way that they couldn't to their parents, and I would answer.
This is the first letter I got from Judy.
That was the beginning. We wrote for many years.
Now, if you've been to the cinema recently and seen the previews, particularly for any PG or 12 films, you will probably have seen a trailer for a film called Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And it starts with the most preposterously pompous dialogue saying, "For over 50 years, one iconic book has connected generations." And you think, what is this going to be? No, it's finally coming to the big screen. And it's this book, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. And to be honest, I'd never heard of this book. I'd never heard of Judy Blume. My wife knew Judy Blume as an author of teenage children's books. But this feels a little bit like Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, where it came on and everybody in America went, wow, they've done a film about Mr. Rogers. And we in the UK said, who? Right?
Yeah.
And this is clearly a set of books that has really defined a generation of teenagers. So this documentary is only just over 90 minutes long. It's an interesting documentary to get informed around the subject matter of this author and her books before this film comes out in a few weeks' time in the UK. She seems to have been the first author of teenage books to actually present the realities of life as a teenager for a 12 or 13-year-old, going through puberty, talking about sex, menstruation, all of that stuff. And the documentary shows through a wide range of different talking heads, including the likes of Molly Ringwald, who's in it, and Lena Dunham, just what a huge impact these books had, not only on boys, but particularly on girls growing up. Now, it's quite interesting in that she becomes a figure of absolute hate by the radical right during Reagan's presidency, when they were just about burning books in terms of censorship. And she had all of her books banned, and she recounts how she was receiving multiple death threats on a daily basis for writing these books. I guess what makes a documentary work are the participants in the documentary. And this one really worked because Judy Blume herself, who's now 83 years old, is such a vivacious woman, recounting her life story, not just its kind of triumphs, but also its personal failures for her and the ups and downs of life. And I think that always makes an interesting documentary in any case, to just look into the life of somebody and see what they've done and how they've done it. So I really like this one, even though I wasn't particularly connected to the subject matter or particularly interested in the subject matter, other than just doing research for this particular film. Had you heard of Judy Blume before?
Well, yes, I've actually seen Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Oh, have you? Okay, you've seen it in
already.
preview.
Yeah, well, I got sent a screener by the press, by the film's publicist.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's a film aimed at teenagers. It's about a young girl coming to terms with the changes in her body, as well as the changes in her environment. They move house at the start of the film, losing certain friends, making new friends. It's about going out and buying a bra. It's about all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
And I did a little bit of research myself. I mean, the book sold incredible numbers.
Yeah.
And it was the far right in America who tried to get it banned.
Yes.
Because it deals head on, as you said, with subjects like menstruation and so on. So Kathy Bates is in it.
Oh, yes, that's right. I remember seeing her in the trailer.
Yeah, she's very good. I mean, the cast are very good. I wasn't particularly engaged with it, I guess, because I'm not really the target audience. I think it'll go down better in America than here, because, as you say, a bit like Mr. Rogers, it's an American thing, and we don't really know much about it here. But I have written a review of it for the June edition of the Good News newspaper.
Okay.
I thought teenagers will probably enjoy it, but they're not going to love it. It's a bit sloppy. It's a bit sentimental in places.
It's probably playing to the people who were talking on this documentary, I suspect, are the people who kind of grew up with the book and it made a big impression.
Yeah. Well, from what you say of the documentary, which I now must watch, I would guess you're absolutely right.
I think the film comes out next month in the UK. We'll review it on this podcast properly at that point. But in terms of the documentary, I thought it was a very well-made documentary. Had some nice animations to kind of illustrate the points it was making. Had some interesting news footage of her being interviewed right through the ages. So, yeah, I thought it was a good documentary. I gave it a 7 out of 10. Probably more because I wasn't particularly engaged with the subject matter. But, it was good.
Okay.
So that's the two films we've reviewed. I say it's going to be a quick one this week. But what we are going to do now is carry on our series of favourite trailers of the participants in this podcast. Last week we did Mine, which is the 1978. I'm not sure that's right, actually. It might be 1979 trailer for Alien. And this week, Andy Godfrey is going to pick a particular favourite trailer. So if you'd like to introduce the trailer, we'll play it, and then you can talk about why you like it so much.
So my favourite trailer, begins with the words on screen, "The fabulous Mr. Hitchcock would like a word with you." And it is the trailer, of course, what else but for Psycho. Exactly.
Good afternoon. Here we have a quiet little motel, tucked away off the main highway, and as you see, perfectly harmless looking, when in fact, it has now become known as the scene of the crime. This motel also has, as an adjunct, an old house, which is, if I may say so, a little more sinister looking, less innocent than the motel itself. And in this house, the most dire, horrible events took place. I think we can go inside because the place is up for sale, although I don't know who's going to buy it now. In that window on the second floor, the single one in front, that's where the woman was first seen. Let's go inside. You see, even in daylight, this place still looks a bit sinister. Now, it was at the top of these stairs that the second murder took place. She came out of the door there and met the victim at the top. Of course, in a flash, there was the knife, and in no time, the victim tumbled and fell with a horrible crash. I think the back broke immediately and hit the floor. It's difficult to describe the way that the twisting of the well, I won't dwell upon it. Come upstairs. Of course, the victim, or should I say victims, hadn't any conception as to the type of people they would be confronted with in this house, especially the woman. She was the weirdest and the most... Well, let's go into her bedroom. Here's the woman's room, still beautifully preserved. And the imprint of her figure on the bed where she used to lay. I think some of her clothes are still in this wardrobe. This was the son's room, but we won't go in there because his favorite spot was the little parlor behind his office in the motel. Let's go down there. This young man, you had to feel sorry for him. After all, being dominated by an almost maniacal woman was enough to drive anyone to the extreme of, well, let's go in. Well, I suppose you'd call this his hideaway. His hobby, as you see, was taxidermy. Crow here, an owl there. Now, an important scene took place in this room. There was a private supper here. And, oh, by the way, this picture has great significance because, let's go along to cabin number 1. I want to show you something there. All tidied up. The bathroom. Well, they've cleaned all this up now. Big difference. You should have seen the blood. The whole place was, well, it's too horrible to describe. Dreadful. And I'll tell you, there's a very important clue was found here. Down there. Well, the murderer, you see, crept in here very slowly. Of course, the shower was on, there was no sound. And
So that's the trailer for Psycho, a very different trailer from the normal trailer you'd get today. I take it that's probably why you like it so much, Andy.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a big difference between seeing a trailer for a film you haven't seen and then seeing a trailer for a film you have seen. I saw the film first before I ever saw the trailer. I think the trailer is fantastic. There's not one single scene from the film in the trailer. It's just Hitchcock walking around the set, and he lays clues. It's like he's laying a seed trail for you as to what's coming up. So we walk into Norman Bates's bedroom, and he goes, "Now in this bedroom, something was found." Oh yeah, no, okay, let's go. And on the staircase here, it's hard to describe what was happening as the body was. No, never mind. And he walks all around the set, and eventually we get, of course, into cabin 1 for the shower, where the shower is. And a real clue was found here, and he's pointing at the toilet. And of course, we know that it was the first time ever a toilet was seen on screen.
Indeed.
It was the first time ever a toilet was shown. And a vital clue was found here, but, oh look, and he's moving on. And then right at the end of the trailer, of course, he pulls back the shower curtain, and it's not Janet Leigh, it's Vera Mills, who is the other star of the film. And I love the whole thing that Hitchcock did with Psycho, because you probably know this, Bob, but when Psycho was released, Hitchcock issued an instruction that cinemas were not to let people in after the film had started.
Yes.
So back in those days, films would roll. So you'd come in halfway through a film, you'd watch that, you'd sit and you'd wait for it to begin again, and you'd walk out when you'd seen the first half. Hitchcock said, "We're not having that with Psycho." And he put out this publicity thing. He said, "Nobody, not even the President of America or the Queen of England herself, will be allowed into Psycho after the showing is started." And cinemas had these cardboard cutouts of him holding this notice all over the place. So the publicity machine for Psycho, this was actually partly because they weren't sure it was going to be a success. I mean, they were really worried about it. And Hitch had financed it himself, Psycho, because he couldn't get any funding for it, because people were just worried about it. And then, of course, it became this massive hit. And you may know that last year they released the Blu-ray with the missing 13 seconds.
Oh, yes, yes.
And those of us who know the film frame by frame did spot the missing 13 seconds. There's an extra shot of Norman washing his hands after the shower, and there's an extra stab in the staircase scene with the detective.
There was a very good documentary. I think it was on Netflix. Was it 52/48 or something?
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it now, but
5270, I think, or something like that. It's about the number of edits and the number of cuts. I saw it at the BFI. You can get it on DVD. It's a great documentary. Whole documentary just examining the shower sequence. Yeah. And by the way, going back to what we were talking about last week, I don't know if you know, but the same team did a whole documentary examining the chestburster sequence from Alien. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but they did a documentary on that.
Oh, okay.
I think the Psycho trailer is great fun. You come out of that trailer thinking, I've got to see this film because I'm not really sure what he's talking about. He lays the groundwork to intrigue you and pull you in, making you want to see the film. I now want to know what happened in that room. I now want to know what happened on the staircase.
Yes.
And every detail of Psycho, Bob, was so clever. Even the painting that Norman removes to uncover the spy hole. It's a painting called Susanna and the Elders, which was based on the Greek legend of some Greek elderly gentleman spying on a young girl. And Hitchcock chose that painting to cover the spy hole that Norman has into cabin 1. So
that's
every little detail of the film is fascinating. And the trailer just so tantalizes and teases you, And that's what a good trailer should do. It should make you want to see the film.
Yeah.
And, as I say, I saw the film before I ever saw the trailer. But I know that if I'd seen the trailer, I'd have been begging to go and see the film. Because I've got to know what happened. That's a good trailer.
Right. Have you ever been lucky enough to go to Los Angeles, to Universal Studios? There?
I haven't. Well, no, unfortunately.
But the Psycho set is there. And,
I would love to go one day.
And on the tram tour, you kind of go past a motel and Norman Bates comes out with a knife and starts chasing the tramp down the road.
I have seen the film at the theatre in London with a live orchestra playing the score.
Oh, okay.
And Mrs. Bernard Herrmann, who of course was Bernard Herrmann was the composer, she did an introduction to the film. And then we watched the film, as I say, with a live orchestra. And as you say, that incredible screeching violins. And that is an incredible experience. Really amazing.
Yes. It's a bit incongruous on the Universal thing, because you go past the Bates Motel and then you go past the house itself on the hill, turn the corner and there's a crashed jumbo jet from War of the Worlds behind it.
That's Hollywood.
That's Hollywood for you. Yes, indeed. Okay, that's a good choice. I do like that trailer. I think it's very clever. So well done, Reverend Godfrey. So that's it for this week. We've got a whole set of new films coming out on Friday. We will review as many of those as we can next week, which I think will be a longer session. So thanks for joining Flickering Dreams. We will see you again soon. Thanks for listening to Flickering Dreams. Please subscribe to the podcast to get the latest edition delivered directly to your ears.